You wanted more Unearthed Arcana, and for those of you who said we wouldn't be getting any Unearthed Arcana Artificer classes, well, turns out we're wrong. So if you want to see what the 3 brand new subclasses that were announced in today's Unearthed Arcana are, stay tuned. So here is the Wizards website. We can go right here and click Unearthed Arcana Subclasses Part 3. Real quick, I just wanted to say, if you do like this kind of coverage of Unearthed Arcana and all the recent videos I've been trying to put out on a regularly consistent basis, trying to do videos every day, even multiple times a day like I am doing today, and you haven't subscribed to the channel, I would seriously appreciate it, and deeply, deeply appreciate it if you decided to do so. You see this thing that's kind of blocking my face up here that shows 61% not subscribed? That means that out of all of you, the over 20,000 of you that do subscribe to this channel, there's an additional 61% of you who've been watching my videos in the month of February who have not subscribed to the channel. And again, this number was in the mid to high 70s when I started this push of showing analytics. We've brought it down over 10%, and that's a wildly amazing amount. So again, if you haven't subscribed and you do like this, please consider doing so. Anyway, on to the video. Again, it seems like they're sticking with this potential planar concept for some and not all, and there's some interesting design notes that I'd like to go through with you as well. So we get a brand new Artificer, a brand new Druid, and a brand new Ranger. There's something specific I want to talk about on the Druid when we get to it, but let's look at the Armorer. Right, so if you wanted to be Iron Man, here you go. Obviously, the Artificer is something people have considered as being something to replicate Iron Man. This one, even more so. So you're going to get proficiency with heavy armor. Normally, you don't have that as an Artificer. You're also going to get Smith's tools. If you already have Smith's tools, you get a different kind of Artisan's tools. As you also get a lot at 3rd level for this class. So the tools, you're going to get the specific spells, which are Magic Missile, Shield, Mirror Image, Shatter, Hypnotic Pattern, Lightning Bolt, Fire Shield, Greater Invisibility, Pass Wall, and Wall of Force. And I really like this design note. I think this is really good. Note, if the character is a member of a class, such as a cleric, that prepares spells, meaning they have the entire list, and they pick which one they prepare for that day, the additional spells are a mix of ones that they could always have prepared, or should always have prepared, and adopted from another class. So the thought process is, if they're always preparing spells, they could have spells that are on the spell list already. It means they don't have to prepare to choose to prepare it, they just get it. But it also could be something from other classes' spell lists that they would not normally have. If the character knows their spells, as in spells known like a sorcerer or a bard, or warlock, rather than preparing them, the spells are almost always adopted from another class. The thought process there being, you have your list that you get to choose from, the very limited number of spells known you get to pick. This time, for this one you're granted via the class, or the subclass, they should be from other resources. Whether or not a class prepares or know their spells, the spells on the list are selected, with rare exceptions, from the PHB only, because they're trying to, and this is something we've seen specifically in Adventurers League, but you can see ramifications of this throughout all design, that they only want you to have to buy one other book to understand the subclass. So if I want to play this Armorer class, or Armorer Artificer, I need to go get the PHB. Oh, this is a rare example, though, because I also need to go get Eberron Rising from the Last War. So right in and of that design note, you need, and it says, with rare exceptions, well, this is a subclass that is included in a different book from the player's handbook, separate from this Unearthed Arcana. But normally, the spells are supposed to be from the player's handbook, so you can use that one resource and one other book, get what you need. All right, then you get Power Armor, probably the main crux feature here. As an action, you turn a suit of heavy armor you're wearing into Power Armor. It gets the following benefits, while provided you have Smith's tools. If the armor normally has a strength requirement, it no longer has that strength requirement. You can use it as a spellcasting focus for your spells, and the Power Armor attaches to you and can't be removed against your will. It also expands to cover your entire body and replaces any missing limbs functioning identically to a body part it's replacing. It continues to be power armor until you doff it, till you don another suit of armor, or you die. Also, at level 3, again, another feature at level 3, you can customize it further. When you choose to make power armor, choose one of the following armor models, Guardian or Infiltrator. The model you choose gives you special benefits. Each model includes a special weapon. When you attack with that weapon, you can use your intelligence modifier, so they get the benefits of Battlesmith. If you're attacking with your armor, you can attack with intelligence instead of strength or dex for attack and damage rolls. You can change your power armor's model whenever you finish a short or long rest, provided you have Smith's tools in hand. Alright, so the Guardian, you're more of your up-close fighter type. You can get Thunder Gauntlets. Your armored weapons are considered, your armored fists, rather, are considered simple weapons. Each deals a d8 thunder damage on a hit. A creature hit by the gauntlet has disadvantage on attack rolls against targets other than you until the start of your next turn, as the armor magically emits a distracting pulse when the creature attacks someone else. This is giving you an unarmed strike, basically, that's dealing a d8 damage. So you're on par with a level 11 monk as far as striking damage goes, but it's thunder damage, and then it gives you kind of the benefit of like a compelled duel scenario where they have to fight you and they have disadvantage on attacks from anyone else. You gain a bonus defensive field. You gain a bonus action that you can use on each of your turns to gain temporary hit points equal to your level in this class, replacing any temporary hit points you already had. You lose those temporary hit points if you doff the armor, but there's nothing saying you couldn't just do that. It doesn't have to be in combat. You can just have the temporary hit points. As long as you don't doff the armor, you can keep those up. And then the Infiltrator, it says it's more subtle. It has a lightning launcher. A gem-like node appears on one of your armored fists or on the chest, right? There's your arc reactor for your unibeam. It counts as a simple ranged weapon with a normal range of 90 feet and a long range of 300 feet. It deals a d6 lightning damage on a hit. Once on each of your turns, when you hit a creature with it, you can deal an extra d6 damage. So it deals a d6 base. Once a turn, you can have it do 2d6. Your walking speed increases by 5 feet, and the weight is negligible. If the armor normally imposes disadvantage on dexterity stealth checks, the armor no longer does that. Next up, at level 5, we can attack twice rather than once when we take the attack action. And then at 9, I like this feature, Armor Modifications. You can learn to use your Artificer infusions, specifically modify parts of the armor. Your armor now counts as separate items for the purposes of your infusions. So the armor is the chest piece, boots, bracers, and a weapon. Each one of these items can bear one of your infusions. In addition, the maximum number of items you can infuse at once increases by 2, but those extra items must be part of your power armor. So the idea is your armor is everything. Again, very Iron Man, right? You are putting all of these infusions into your armor to make it stronger. You can separate out the different, infuse them all into one thing. Typically, only one item can hold an infusion at a time. This lets you get past it. But it also, maximum numbers you can infuse at once increases by 2. So it's just bumping up. I don't know, the maximum number you can infuse at once increases by 2, or I don't know if that means the maximum overall. I would say so because it says the extra items have to be part of your power armor. So if you could infuse 3 items, you could now infuse 5 and just soup up your armor. And then not, because, right, you don't have to. You can choose, now counts as separate items for armor, boots, bracers, and weapon. So you can have a total of 4 infusions in your armor, and you can increase it to 2 of those have to be in the armor, and then the other ones can be outside. Lastly, we have perfected armor. If you're a guardian, you get the additional benefits of when a creature you can see ends its turn within 30 feet of you, you can use your reaction to force the creature to succeed on a strength saving throw against your spell save DC, or be pulled 30 feet toward you in an unoccupied space. If you pull the target to a space within 5 feet of you, you can make a melee attack against it as part of this reaction. You can use this a number of times equal to your intelligence modifier per long rest. And the Infiltrator, any creature that takes damage from your lightning launcher, glimmers with light until the start of your next turn. They shed light, and the next attack roll against it has advantage. If that attack hits, it does an extra d6 lightning damage. So it's giving you sort of a fairy fire effect without the dex save for 1 hit, and it does an extra d6 damage. So if you lightning launcher somebody as the first attack, dealing a d6 damage, then you could strike them again with advantage, choose to tack on your extra d6 damage from the lightning launchers feature, and then deal an extra an extra d6 lightning damage from this feature, and you'd have advantage, so there's a potential there for a crit. Not only that, but we did get some new unique Artificer infusions as well. So the first one is Armor of Magical Strength. This is a prerequisite that you are level 10 and have a suit of armor that requires and is an item, suit of armor that requires attunement. While wearing this armor, a creature can use its intelligence modifier in place of its strength modifier when making strength checks and strength saving throws. The armor has 4 charges. As a reaction, when it would be knocked prone, it can expend 1 charge to not be knocked prone. The armor gains a d4 expended charges daily at dawn. So this, I would say this could possibly be, obviously could be useful for you, but if you have a wizard that somehow has access to armor proficiency, they could do that. It could be useful for, say, a rogue who's probably not trained in strength, maybe a dex-based Eldritch Knight. Armor of Tools. This one has no prerequisites. As an action, a creature wearing this infused armor can integrate into it an artisan's tools or thieves' tools. The tools remain integrated in the armor for 8 hours or until the wearer removes the tool as an action. The armor can only have 1 tool integrated at a time. The wearer adds its intelligence modifier to any ability check it makes with the integrated tool. Must have a free hand to use it. Helm of Awareness, a helmet for level 10. You have advantage on initiative rolls. In addition, you can't be surprised provided you're not incapacitated. So that's potentially a way to sort of get yourself around taking the alert feat, because you're having advantage on initiative rolls, which advantage roughly equals out to about a +5 on a roll. So alert gives you a +5 to your initiative, so there's that. Mind Sharpener. While wearing this infused item, whenever the creature fails a Constitution saving throw to maintain concentration on a spell, it can use its reaction to succeed. That just period. No, just uses your reaction and you can succeed on concentration. Obviously only 1 time per turn, but still. And the Spell Refueling Ring, which is a 6th level Artificer infusion. While wearing this ring, the creature can recover 1 expended spell slot as an action. The maximum number of the recovered slot is equal to the number of magic items the wearer is currently attuned to. Once used, this ring can't be used again until the next dawn. So that is, again, just a freebie spell slot. I don't know about you guys, but I think this one's pretty good. And this, I'm not going to say this is my favorite, but I really like the idea. I mean, I built an Iron Man way back. I was talking about redoing that with the published Artificer anyway. Now I might have to do it even more so with this new Armorer subclass. So let's take a look at the Druid. Now, this is the Circle of Stars Druid, and it's all based around having basically a map, a star map of the heavens, or a constellation map. And what I thought was interesting is this is the first time in a while we've gotten an Unearthed Arcana Druid that does not get circle spells. So we saw it with the Circle of Spores Druid when it released. The Circle of Wildfire Druid also got circle spells. Now this one, the Star Druid, does not have circle spells, which I thought was an interesting design choice. So what do you get? You have this star map. There's a table to figure out maybe what it looks like. You can use an hour to replace it. Let's see. Ceremony can be performed during a short rest or a long rest, and it destroys the previous map if you lost the original. You can cast the Augury and Guiding Bolt spells without expending a spell slot, without preparing the spell, provided you have your star map as the spellcasting focus. You can cast a spell from the map in this way a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier per long rest. I don't know if druids typically get Augury, but I know they don't get Guiding Bolt. That'll get you a couple spells for free. Now, when you cast a spell from the map, so it's not like you could cast wisdom modifier times Augury and wisdom modifier times Guiding Bolt. It's wisdom modifier times from the map. You choose which spell to cast. In addition, you get to enter a starry form. Now, if you remember, in my Fixing the Circle of Spores Druid video, I suggested that that was a large oversight for wizards, and this is a built-in class-based mechanic that they could use to potentially alter things. And what I had suggested was use Wild Shape as a consumable resource. So something that the Druid expends in place of transforming, right? Obviously, Moon Druid gets the best benefit for transforming into an animal via Wild Shape. Maybe you, as the starry form druid here, you're going to expend that to enter the starry form, but maybe every druid, that should be a function of how the class mechanic works. The only thing you have to be mindful of is you get wild shape back on a short rest, so it has to be something not too broken. So as an action, you can expend a use of your wild shape to enter a starry form. While in this, you retain your game statistics, but you take on a luminous star-like quality. Your joints glimmer like stars, and glowing lines connecting them as a star chart. This form sheds bright light in 10-foot radius and dim light for another 10 feet. It lasts for 10 minutes or until you're incapacitated. And you can choose a form while choose your choice gives you certain benefits while in this form. So you choose one: Chalice, Archer, or Dragon. So the Chalice, whenever you cast a spell using a spell slot that restores hit points to a creature or another creature within 30 feet, you can regain hit points equal to... Wait a minute, let me read that again. Whenever you cast a spell using a spell slot that restores hit points to a creature, you or another creature within 30 feet of you can regain hit points equal to 1d8 plus half your level in this class. So it could be the person you are healing, or it could be somebody else. Archer, you gain a bonus action that you can use to make a ranged spell attack, hurling a luminous arrow that targets a creature within 60 feet of you. On a hit, they take radiant damage equal to a d8 plus your wisdom mod. And the Dragon is when you make an intelligence or wisdom check or a constitution saving throw to maintain concentration on a spell, you treat a roll of 9 or lower on a d20 as a 10. That's pretty crazy. Especially because lower level stuff, the highest your concentration check, or the minimum it's going to be, is typically 10. That means you could, in theory, pass your constitution saving throw concentration almost every time. Alright, Cosmic Omen at level 6. When you finish a long rest, you can consult your star map for omens. Roll a d6, and you gain a benefit based on what the die roll was. So if the roll was even, you get Wheel. Whenever a character you can see within 30 feet of you makes an attack roll, saving throw, or ability check, you can use a reaction to roll a d6 and add it to the number rolled. And Woe is when a creature you can see within 30 feet makes an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw. You can use your reaction to roll a d6 and subtract that from the number rolled. You can do this a minimum wisdom modifier times per long rest. At 10, you get Full of Stars. When Starry Form is active, you become partially incorporeal, so you have resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, slashing damage while in that form. And lastly, Star Flare. As an action, you conjure a burst of bright light in a 30-foot radius sphere centered on you. And centered on a point, you can see within 120 feet. You can immediately teleport each willing creature in the sphere to an unoccupied space within 30 feet of it. Each creature remaining in the sphere must succeed on a con save against your spell save DC, or take 4d10 radiant damage and be blinded until the end of your next turn. Once you've used this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest, or until you expend a spell slot of 5th level or higher to use it again. There we see, once again, the concept of spending spell slots to get features back. That seems to be a thing. Now, again, the Armorer Artificer could be anything, but now we have like a starry, star realm type druid, so we're getting more into that, again, continuing what I would see as that planar idea. And then we have the Ranger Fey Wanderer, right? So here's a Fey. We've got a Feywild, a whole new, another plane-based thing. So you're just basically a guardian between the Feywild and the material plane. It's not the best. It's a Ranger subclass regardless, but this takes strides to do good things for the Ranger, and honestly, I think some of these features could be possibly baked into base Ranger to make it better overall. But let's see what you get. So, you can make a couple Feywild gifts. You can get one that's just sort of a flavor piece. You get additional spells, as do all of the new Rangers, not except for the ones in the Player's Handbook. Charm Person, Misty Step, Dispel Magic, Banishment, Mislead. That is the spells you get at 3rd, 5th, 9th, 13th, and 17th. You also not only get those spells, but you get Cunning Will at 3rd level. You have advantage on saving throws against being charmed or frightened. That kind of like the Fey ancestry that elves get. And you gain proficiency in one of the following: Deception, Performance, or Persuasion. You also get Dreadful Strikes. You can use a bonus action to imbue a weapon or weapons with magic. Until the end of the turn, the weapons are magical and deal an extra d6 psychic damage on a hit. The creature can only take this extra damage once per turn. When you engage in 2-weapon fighting, you can imbue your weapons as part of the same bonus action you use to make the attack. which is nice because it's taking into account that if you choose to be 2-weapon fighter, that bonus action has a lot of use for you. Blessing of the Courts. This is something that I like because it kind of starts to make you more paladin-y. Once on each of your turns, when you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you can expend a spell slot to deal extra psychic damage. The extra damage is 3d6 psychic, and the creature must make a wisdom saving throw against your spell save DC, or be frightened of you until the end of your next turn. And then they added this other piece, which I felt kind of out of left field here. In addition, whenever you make a charisma check, you gain a bonus equal to your wisdom modifier. I think that should have either been a separate thing, but I guess it's a blessing of the court, if you will. So an extra 3d6 psychic damage and a free fear effect. It's on a hit, so you can never waste this. It's when you hit a creature, so it's not like you're going to try to use it and then miss. It is expending a spell slot, which is good because you could expend a first level spell slot and do 3d6 damage with the free fear effect. But if you don't have any more first level spells, you could expend a third level slot and do the same amount of damage that you did with a first level slot. Problem with that is paladins are increasing as their levels go up, their smites increase. And again, not saying that this is the answer for how to fix a ranger, but this concept of this, I feel it could be almost like a baked-in base feature rather than a subclass. But let's keep going. 11, you get Beguiling Twist. Whenever a creature you can see within 120 feet of you succeeds on a saving throw against being charmed or frightened, you can use your reaction to force a different creature you see within 120 feet to succeed on a wisdom saving throw against your spell save DC or suffer one of the following. Are charmed or frightened by you for a minute. They repeat the saving throw at the end of each of their turns, ending the effect on a success, or they just take a flat 3d10 psychic damage with no saving throw. And lastly, we have Misty Presence at level 15. You gain a bonus action that you can use to force a creature you can see within 30 feet of you to make a wisdom save against your spell save DC. On a failed save, they can't see or hear you for 24 hours. The target can repeat the saving throw at the end of any turn during which you hit it with an attack roll, force it to make a saving throw, or dealt damage to it. The effect ends early if you use this bonus action again. Once on a successful save, the target is immune for 7 days. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest or until you expend a spell slot of 4th level or higher. Now that's a pretty powerful spell slot to spend as a ranger, but it also makes you invisible to them for 24 hours. So it has its uses. So I really like the new Artificer. I like the concept of an armor-based thing. This is something I think a lot of people, maybe not a lot of people, but me specifically have been looking for. Not necessarily a defensive class, but the amount of people that have been trying to come up with like a 2-shield wielding character. Someone that is like a defense, they're like a bulwark, and they're there to just mess people up, but in a defensive manner. I think this is kind of going to be the closest we're going to get. With a character that has armor that's badass, that they just boost and increase and make more and more powerful. The only one of the other cool things to think about is you take a suit of heavy armor and then turn it into power armor. It doesn't have to be a non-magical suit of heavy armor. You could find yourself a magic plate mail, and then you could provide all of the benefits that this class grants to that magic armor. So let's say it's +2 plate mail or a plate mail of resistance or something like that. You could take that, wear that, and then use all of the power armor abilities to stack on top of it. I don't believe it states anywhere that it has to be non-magical armor. So you could take your magic armor and then turn it into guardian or infiltrator armor. You could add your extra armor modifications to it. The perfected armor bonuses come through, and then again, any of the other fusions as well. So, Circle of Stars Druid, I like the concept. I'm a huge fan of the idea, as I stated earlier, of using Wild Shape as a mechanic for the class. It's something that you can spend. That's a resource that you get. You get it twice per long or per short rest. So you have to be careful what it is. It can't be something too big like how you recharge spell slots or something that you can get them back on a short rest, because that works for warlocks because they're limited on how much they can cast. The concept of the star map is cool, and the way it could be, however you can flavor the actual map itself. But basically, the fact that the map just gives you augury or guiding bolt, wisdom modifier times per long rest, seems kind of weird. It just seems kind of out of the blue. I don't know. Maybe I'm misinterpreting it, or I'm just not fully comprehending it. But augury is a spell that's, I guess, useful when you have it, but it's never something you'd probably want to spend too much of your spell slots on. So getting it for free is useful. Guiding Bolt, also good and not on the Druid list. The Starry Form is nice, as I stated. You can choose it to get some damage, some healing, some survivability, or the maintaining of a concentration check. Not sure how often an intelligence or a wisdom check is going to come up in combat. Not saying that you can't use this for roleplay purposes, but typically Wild Shape is more often than not a combat, though especially the way this is designed, and the fact that later on it gives you resistance to damage, seems like this is more geared towards combat. Cosmic Omen, the 6th level ability, I could just throw it away. I don't even care about it. It's like a lesser cutting words that you can use wisdom modifier time for long rest. I mean, a bard's going to be better at it because they get bardic inspiration back on a short rest and the die goes up from a d6. This is forever a d6 and you don't even get to choose what it is every day. It could be a detriment to your enemies today or a boon to your allies today, tomorrow. Obviously, anything you're going to have is useful. It does use your reaction, I believe. So that's good because you don't have a lot of reaction utility other than absorb elements typically as a druid. Again, damage resistance is good and mass teleportation is good. Honestly, though, I do believe that circle spells for this would be good. We've seen that appear in a bunch of recent Unearthed Arcana, and the concept of giving other classes always prepared spells seems to be on the rise. So I think this class is close. It's not my favorite. It's got some unique abilities, and I'm sure the starry form and just the aesthetics of that will go over very well in the community. But I think circle spells would take it to another level. And lastly, the Fey Wanderer. It's cool. People love the Feywild and love Fey creatures, so this will probably do very well. It's still a ranger, so it has its own inherent issues. The spells are decent. The ranger spells they're going to get. Getting yourself, again, how many elf rangers do you know? So Cunning will likely be redundant if it's an elf ranger or a half-elf ranger. There's not going to be any benefit for this whole feature here, which is why I'm sure they added the proficiency, because this piece here under Cunning Will, you're going to have it. It's duplicative, and there's no, they don't stack and turn into immunity. Dreadful Strikes is just a free opportunity to get extra damage and make your damage makes the weapon magic, and it does extra damage, and it's bonus action, and it's free, and it's unlimited. That's awesome. Extra damage for spending a spell slot. As a fan of paladins, I'm a fan of that. It's a little bit lesser than a paladin would, but you can do it at range because it's just a weapon attack, and it comes with a free fear effect baked in, so that's not bad. Anytime you try to make a charisma check, you get a little bit of bonus from your wisdom. Again, not sure how often that'll come up. You get reactionary use to whenever somebody succeeds on a saving throw against being charmed, you can choose to turn that around on them or deal damage, and that's unlimited. That just, as long as it happens and you can see it within 120 feet, you can do it. And then again, 24-hour invisibility, that is a rogue's wet dream, so there you go. That's pretty much it, folks. That's my thoughts on it. I like the Artificer, as I stated. The Ranger is still a Ranger, but it's better, and wow, am I out of focus. And the Druid, I think, is close, but I think circle spells will make it better. But I'm curious what you all think. Leave in your comments down below what your thoughts are on this. Do you think, and do you agree with me, that I think we're going to get, not necessarily going to be called Xanathar's Guide Part 2, but essentially a new subclass book that seems to be the trend, right? Class book, a race book, right? Sword Coast Adventures Guide, Volo's Guide, Xanathar's Guide, Mordenkainen's. So we've gotten sort of a class book, followed by a race book, followed by a class book, followed by a race book. Now we're on time for a class book. It seems like it's going to be planar based, right? We've seen a lot of planar based subclasses. So something that was discussed that I think might come up, they want to make these books tied to something you'd find in the realms. That's why it's Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. So in theory, you, a character in Faerun, could go to Candlekeep or a library and say, 1 copy of Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, please. And you could take that off the shelf. Or 1 copy of Volo's Guide to Monsters. They want to try to make it themed. That's why it's a Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide. It's a book. One suggestion I saw recently that I think would be really, really good would be Mink's Guide to the Plains. So Minsk, the legendary ranger and a companion of Boo, the miniature giant space hamster. I think it would be hilarious if it was a Minsk book, but I doubt it will be, but maybe. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.